What's up, everybody?
My name is Anthony Irvin.
You beat yourself?
Yeah, CB myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Jim Green.
Don't even need a hit of traffic light.
Okay, good.
Welcome to
One set. What's up, everybody? How we doing? Whew, it has been about a month since Anthony and I have been able to do this together. We knew we had end of summer things that we needed to tend to. I was jumping back into my teaching schedule. We are back. Jim Green here, along with my co-host, my best friend Anthony Irvin. How you doing, brother?
What's up, guys? Yeah, dude, it's been a while. Glad to be back here. It's like I said on the last episode, just been busy while I was doing that episode. I was at the shore. We spent like our last little, shindig down the shore. That was fun. Just, being with
Last
kids,
little summer
doing all
hurrah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just seeing Anthony, being in the ocean this year, I think this was like his first year that he really got to experience like being in the water and the waves and everything. Because last year he did it, but this year I was able to like see him actually come into himself with it. Like he was like, "Oh, let's go out farther. Let's do this and that." Like he loves it. So we were on the beach, I think, for like 3-4 hours almost every time we were out there. He loved it. So, and then, at night we would do the boards, do the rides, because the one of the Gilliam Wonderland thing down there is supposedly closing down.
I heard about that.
So we always go down there for the kids. So we did our last couple things down there if it does get shut down. So, we got to do those. So it was just very busy. Got to do some fishing. I took Anthony out fishing on one of the piers for the first time. So he had fun. And he caught a fish down there too, which came out of nowhere. He just wanted to keep reeling the things in. And as he's reeling it in, I see the line, start going from like side to side. I'm like, dude, do you have something on this? And so he's reeling it in, and I see the fish on. I'm like, dude, you have a fish. He's like, ah. So I got it up for him, and I was like, dude, that's crazy. Like first time being out here, and you catch something.
Your 4-year-old son can fish better than I can.
He can fish better than probably me too. I can't really say it every time I go out on a new thing, I'm catching something. So that was cool. And because he was dying to go fishing, and I had to get him fishing before the trip too. So it's cool that he's like wanting to do all these activities. So I'm just taking it in, soaking it all in, and doing all that. So
that's
it's
amazing.
Fun,
I love it.
Just glad to be back in more of the relaxation mode, back to the work routine, the school routine. Ant's officially a pre-K kid now, so he's doing that. Grayson,
kindergarten next year, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think by the spring of next year, we're going to be, probably even January. I think that's when we start really submitting and trying to really get that set up. So that's going to be like when it's really going to hit that, in the next kindergarten.
In the next 6 months, you're going to be thinking like, we got to get him signed up for kindergarten.
It's crazy. So, and Grayson, he turned 8 months. He's starting to, lift himself up on his bottom. So, he's growing up before our eyes too. And he is slightly, starting to really like pick up words and stuff. He's already saying dad, like dada here and there. Jen keeps on saying mama, and he'll look like dada. I'm like,
Score.
Like, yes. Even though I get it, I'm sure for babies, dad is more easier to say than mom. Not sure if it's just a thing for babies, but it's always good to hear, like, when a dad hears that, like, yep, awesome.
What was Lil Tone's first words?
Between mom and dad?
Yep.
Dad.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Have you ever wanted to start your podcast but didn't know where to start? The One Step Bros are here to talk to you about Zencastr. Zencastr is the ultimate base podcasting solution and now the all-in-one podcasting platform, making podcasting easy. They've sure made it easy for us to be able to record our podcast and our episodes every week for you guys. Once you've set up your account, you're simply one click away from recording a high-quality podcast with studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. My personal favorite feature is their multi-layered backups, which ensure our recordings are always in the highest quality, even during unstable web connections. And if you thought you needed multiple tools and services for your podcast, Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform allows you to create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code OneSetPod, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences we do with all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. So, same thing for both of them.
You're like, 2-0. All right.
And she's like, okay.
Okay. All right.
So it's been cool seeing him, grow into his things. And I talked about that last week as well. Just seeing them both growing up. It's crazy how fast the times are going. So
yeah, well,
it's been fun.
I get to see. Well, since Grayson's been born, I think we've seen him 3 times, maybe.
Yeah, I think that, yeah.
Which, like, the first time, obviously, at the hospital after he was born, back in January, and I think we stopped. We definitely stopped over. Well, I know when Lil Tone had his baseball game,
we brought Grayson then too, right?
No, I think we stopped over to see him after, just for like.
That's right. Yeah, probably.
I think he might have been sleeping.
Maybe.
I know we definitely saw him again, and then we'll get to see him at the baptism in a few weeks. So, a few weeks? No, by the time this comes out, I think it
might be like 2-3 weeks.
Okay,
something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe 2 weeks. I don't. Just getting settled
time
into
is oblivious now.
Yeah, time is a made up thing, they say, right?
Yeah.
Dude, things have happened.
It really has. Yeah.
And before we hit record, I was like, oh, we gotta talk about these couple of things. Start with I'll just start, and we're not gonna dive into this stuff. I don't want to talk too much at length, especially about Diddy getting officially arrested and is in federal custody, which is just like,
it's insane.
what was insane was when I heard it on the radio today. Actually, I heard it on my way home from teaching tonight. Was it had been 6 months since this stuff like all started coming out. I'm like, I can't believe that's how long it has been. And again, that's just like we were saying. In 6 months, you're going to be signing up Lil Tone for kindergarten kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're just waiting for the right time.
Yep. They needed to.
Eventually, when you do that stuff, you eventually get caught. Everybody thinks like, "Oh, I'm going to get away with it." Eventually, you keep on doing that stuff, you're going to get caught. Somebody's gonna start splurging on you. Somebody's going to say something, or somebody's going to catch on to what you're doing.
50 Cent, Cat Williams, just to name a couple there. Okay. Just found out Tito Jackson passed away, which I like. Other than he was in the Jackson 5, and I know him, not him specifically, but just the American Dream Jackson 5 story, right? Like, just that's like the only real place that, like, because I think Tito was the oldest one.
I think he may have been the third. I think it was
Jermaine.
might have been Jermaine,
Yeah.
Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, Michael, Jackie.
Janet.
I think Jackie might be the oldest. Then it's Jermaine, Tito,
then Tito. Okay.
Marlon, then Michael.
I thought Marlon was younger than Michael. Anyway,
I'm going off the American Dream movie. I think Marlon was older than Michael.
Okay.
So it might have been.
Okay. And then Janet was just kind of like
in the middle of that. Yeah.
Yeah. They real mad. Joe Jackson was like
real mad.
Yeah.
Broads.
Yeah. And then Janet Jackson wound up going on to be also a star, which I always liked her stuff. So
and Tito's guitar playing was actually, really, he took a lot of implements from, Joe Jackson and a lot of things that he was listening to as well. So a lot of his influence, and like he had a lot of, like, when you listen to, I Want You Back and a lot of those old things, like his guitar playing in those are phenomenal. He's not like a lead guitar player, but just playing as like a rhythm guitar play, like his rhythm guitar playing is very, very good. But I was very surprised we didn't get, I mean, I didn't really watch the news too much, but there wasn't a lot of like buzz about Tito passing. I mean, unless I just,
it was just like, oh yeah, by the way, Tito Jackson passed away. Yeah.
Tito. I mean, I didn't see any like TMZ or, NBC, CBS type of things, like, remembering Tito Jackson or any of those things. It was just more like, oh, my friend just says R.I.P. Tito Jackson. So I'm like, do we not give this guy any credit?
Yeah, thinking, seriously.
Well, the Jackson 5 are definitely done. They can't be the Jackson 3 anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think they can tour with 3 people. They probably can, but who's going to want to step into Tito and Michael's shoes in that?
Yeah, probably.
It's one thing they can do the Jackson 4 and maybe implement one of the other Jackson kids, but when you're Jackson 3, it's kind of hard to, say like, oh, then it's more like you're just being out there to be out there. They gotta hang it up at this point.
Yeah. Dude, you just reminded me of something else that I definitely wanted to talk about today. And because I asked your take on this a few days ago, because we hadn't really talked because you were away.
Yeah.
And I was also busy and stuff, getting set up for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Linkin Park.
Yes.
New lead singer. Okay. Emily Armstrong is brought in, and people, it is a very mixed feeling kind of thing.
It really is.
And I gotta say, how many bands that had made it had a member pass away, and then after some time, the band must, like, the show must go on. The band continues, like they, and it's not a disrespect thing. It's like, I feel like a good band that is family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone would look around at each other and most likely say, I wouldn't want to do this with anyone else in the world. At the same time, if something ever happened to one of us, carry on. Like, like not, oh, we've reached this level of success, and if something happened to one of us, how dare you? Right?
Yeah. The one band that comes to mind when talking about this, Avenged Sevenfold, when the Rev passed. Yeah. Everybody's like, well, what are you going to do now? How can you replace the Rev? I mean, he was an amazing drummer, but then once they replaced him, there was the same thing. Like, everybody had their...
There was like, backlash from people that were like, how dare you? Like, how could you do that?
He's never going to fill his shoes. Like, oh, okay, he's good. He's going to be able to do... But, Avenged Sevenfold has been able to continue throughout these years touring after the passing. So, I think Mike from Linkin Park put out a video. I saw the video. He's saying, I know there's been a lot of people that, and we thought about this, obviously there's going to be some people that like it, some people that don't. But all I got to say is, just give us a chance, listen to the new stuff. We think we've written some cool stuff. We hope you guys like it. Just give us a chance, and
Yeah,
I stopped listening, necessarily not stopped, but I didn't really get into a lot of the Linkin Park stuff after Meteora.
uh-huh.
And then when they came out with New Light, I started listening a little bit more, but then went away from it. And
yeah, I think their newer stuff just felt like there were maybe one or two tracks on the album that you were like, oh, okay, this is really good, and then everything else it was just kind of like, Maybe it was because they were trying something new, like their sound changed too much from what you were used to from their first couple albums.
Yeah, or just not giving it enough time to really appreciate what they were doing. There's times where I listen to albums like that, like I listen to the track that's been out, and then I'll try to get into the other stuff. I'm like, it doesn't sound like that, and I don't give it enough time to really let it marinate to be like, okay, this is actually good. So eventually I might want to go back and listen to some of those fuller albums that I didn't get to after Meteora. But here's the thing, that nobody can ever replace Chester. Chester was, a man of his own, but Emily, when I think they put out a video of her playing a show with Linkin Park, I guess as like a guest vocalist. And when she hit a couple of those screaming parts, I'm like, whoa, like she has that belting like Chester. So I can see, okay, she would kind of fit them really well because Chester had, a very unique screaming voice. And when she did that, I'm like, okay, that fits with the Linkin Park sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was showing because anyone that I know that like is into like that kind of music, I was like, what do you think of the new Linkin Park song? Like, give it a listen. I just was interested in how people felt about it.
Yeah.
But again, I think that it being so new is what is going to get people in a stir. And like Mike said, give us a chance, like, because in a couple years, like their next, like if they do another album with Emily Armstrong, it could be better. And then it's like, okay, this works, it's fine.
Yeah.
And I know Chester's son like went on a rant about like feeling like it was disrespectful and how could they, and then he actually, I read this, that he actually went to like their kickoff show in LA at the Forum, because they're like doing a whole world tour. So they kicked off. I wonder when the new album's coming out. I didn't see that.
I didn't see it yet either. I thought it was already out, but I guess it's just that single right now.
It's just the single right now. But if they're going on tour,
they were at the Barclays Center the other night, so they were pretty local.
Okay.
I knew somebody on my feed who went to see it, and they said Linkin Park was amazing.
There it is.
So it was cool to see that. And again, if you're a Linkin Park fan, you're going to be biased and just be like, hey, they were awesome because they were playing Faint. I heard, A Place for My Head. So everything off that first album. And, they had Emily singing and screaming some of those things. So I'm like, okay, yeah, she definitely has the attitude for it. I think it's just going to take time for some of those people to really, get into her, because they're just seeing like, oh, nobody can they're so used to seeing Chester up there, and the fact like, oh, nobody can replace Chester. I don't want to see anybody. They should have never came back. But, especially as a band, if you feel you want to,
try to carry on, like
carry on. And
hey,
even if you're honoring that person, and another band, there's like one or two, but the biggest one that I can't even believe I didn't say it first, Metallica. Their first bassist passed away during one of their first big tours, and that's when Jason Newsted came in, and everybody, was really like up and down about it. But now it's to the point where everybody loves Jason Newsted. I think it's more on how he left the band, because they really treated him like shit during the time, because the guys in Metallica were almost hazing Jason to mask the grieving process from what they were doing with their first bass player. And he got a lot of
flack for it.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are always going to be on Jason Newsted's side, but he became one of the the troubadours of the Metallica sound. But now you see the newer bass player that took over after Jason, and you still feel like he does a good job, don't get me wrong, but like it would be awesome, like eventually, I don't know when Metallica's going to hang it up, but I would like to hope that it seems like they've mended a lot of their things with Jason at this point. So I would like to hope, and I would want to see Jason eventually, hopefully, do a tour with them down the line. If they're going to do one final tour, it would be great to see Jason come back with them and do like maybe a couple nights with them or something, and just get the four can't really say original guys, but the four the four members of Metallica that we all know, and just have them back. So that would be really cool. So that was just one band that I'm like, oh, what? Because we were just on the subject of saying, when a band member passes and carrying on, you can't stop but think of what Metallica went through.
Right. Well,
with
I think about Freddie Mercury passing away.
Yeah.
But they didn't. I don't think the band tried to carry on after he passed. No. But like again, I feel like the lead singer passing, and this is, I might get so much heat for this. The lead singer coming out is a more obvious change to the sound if you replace them versus someone who's playing one of the instruments, right?
Yes. I always say that too. That, but when a lead singer leaves, the whole thing changes.
Yeah,
it's and the only way that the instrumentation changes is if it's usually a guitar player that is the main songwriter in the band. Because then when you get somebody else in there, their whole, song thing is way different than what the original guy did. Again, and bringing about this stuff, here's another band, Architects. Their guitarist, Tom, passed away. And he was one of the main soul writers of the band. And since he passed, their music has changed a little bit, but they still have a couple of the implements of what they used to sound like, but their sound has definitely changed since he passed. Because, once you get new members in there, who aren't the original writers of the band, you're going to get somewhat of a sound change. So, and that brings controversy as well, because then people are like, oh, well, I like the old Architects, or I'm not really digging this new stuff, it's not as heavy, and it's more mainstream. You get the typical people like that. It took me a little bit to get into what they're doing now. There's certain songs that I like, certain songs I'm like, that's just not the Architects that I knew growing up. But there's definitely things, when those things happen, you're always going to get controversy no matter what. When something happens between a band member leaves, a band member passes away, or something, or even just when a band changes their sound, there's always going to be some type of controversy. But, it's just, it goes back to the simple fact that, if you just give it a chance, instead of just being like, oh, I'm not going to listen to it just because it's not what I'm used to listening to it. If you at least give it a chance and listen to it, then you can make your opinion. If you don't like it after that, then stick with it, you know? But I think a lot of people just go off of like, hey, if it's not what I'm used to, I'm not going to spend my time with it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, do you remember when like Wes Borland left Limp Bizkit and then they brought in Mike Smith?
Slightly, yeah.
Yeah, well, because I think Wes Borland wound up coming back after that, but like,
yeah, they brought in the dude from Atreyu.
That's who he was.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, because I saw them at the TLA, and he was up there. I'm like, that's the guitar player from Atreyu. What's he doing in Limp Bizkit?
and then you're like, oh shoot, he was actually.
And I looked up. I had to look it up, and I'm like, that is the dude from Atreyu. Why is he? And I'm like, oh, because Wes Borland left
Dipped.
for a little while.
Yeah.
And oh, so he's just the temporary guitar player right now. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know. And then Wes Borland came back. So, you know, again, Wes Borland having his sound very unique for that type of music. You can recreate that, but you're never gonna be able to recreate the sound that somebody did like Wes Borland.
Well, Wes Borland too had such a personality to him because of like,
yes,
he had like these like
the
quirky
outfits
weird outfits and like face painting and masks and he just kind of helped make the look for Limp Bizkit. So with him
it worked
removed,
with Limp Bizkit so much, and still to this day, it's awesome. I mean, I just love that he just commits to it now, and he just goes into like a full costume thing of said. And you and me have talked recently, and even now my brother has brought it up. Like, we need to be, when they come back around, we need to see Limp Bizkit.
but
That's on our bucket list.
Yeah, and it's this is where put that money aside for something that it's going to come up, and it's like you want that money, emergency funds, savings, all that stuff.
Yep.
You and I were just talking about that before we started recording, and it's like,
yeah,
there has to be money available on this side in case of like, oh, Limp Bizkit's going on tour and tickets go on sale next week. It's like those funds better can be there.
I think they were in the area earlier last year, so we might not get them for maybe about another year. So
okay,
we have some time, but I'm definitely keeping up on their tour dates, because when they come back around and we can do it, I definitely want to go.
We gotta go.
I saw them at the TLA, and they did like a half set. They didn't really do a lot of all their songs, but they did their generic ones. But I'm like, I gotta see. Like, I think it was when they just started coming back. Out of their hiatus. So I'm like, I gotta see them when they do a bigger like 2-hour set. I think they only did maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
Well, we were talking about, you know, because you said not after like Meteor and Minutes to Midnight for Linkin Park. You were like, yeah, there might have only been a song or two. And in my mind, I was like, okay, I remember. I mean, Significant Other is just hands. It's my favorite. Yeah, it's the Go album. Okay. Chocolate Starfish and a Hot Dog Flavored Water. I like most of those tracks. Most of them.
Yeah, I can. Those two albums I can listen to front to back.
Yeah, I think the tail end of Chocolate Starfish, Hot Dog Flavored Water, I start to fall off a little bit. Yeah. But I was like, yeah, results may vary. Like, I was like, what is the album that Eat You Alive and Behind Blue Eyes are on?
Yeah.
And I was looking it up. Hold on, I have Chocolate Starfish first. Okay, yeah, no, front to back, this is just such a. I gotta listen to these like soon, because
the newest album they have out is so good.
Is it?
Like it? Yeah, the newest album, because they definitely got back to their roots on that. Okay. When it came out, I'm like, this is Limp Bizkit.
Okay.
So if you haven't gone through the whole thing yet, it's so good, dude.
Yeah. Results may vary. I haven't
listened to it in a while, so I would definitely be on board with listening to it with
like,
you.
Yeah, like
in
I'll
real
let you know if I'm out and about and I'm like, I've got a long drive and I'm putting this on, and if you can listen, we'll do that. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, results may vary. There's a couple on here that I'm like, I don't remember this, and maybe I just need to listen through it again and be like, okay, this album actually wasn't as I just think that some of it got a little soft for me, like a little too soft for me.
Yeah.
Because I think Significant Other, they had tracks that were like aggressive, but then they had tracks that were like really fun.
Because they mixed like the new metal with
alternative and rap,
like the disc jockey type things.
DJ Lethal,
DJ Lethal, and they had so many different elements of their band, and plus then they can be very heavy, and then they can do like Behind Blue Eyes and kill it. I
think on of course I just closed out Spotify. Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water song is Boiler. I'm almost 100%. That one I always really like because it starts really eerie and dark, and then he goes, oh, and then it just hits. It's so good. And then he's just like mellowly. This is water, people. You should be proud.
Looks like I'm gonna do everything myself.
Yeah. And then it gets so much heavier, and then
it gets deep,
and then it drops, and the drums are like gum, and he's like, pending on you is done, and giving to you is done.
The build up to that is so good,
no more reason, and it's but then it just rises and rises, and I'm like, this song is
the dynamics of it is just awesome. Like it takes you from here, then drops you down, back up, and then to that part brings you down here, and then just gradually brings you back up to that. It's awesome.
I forgot that My Way and Rollin' were on this album.
Same album.
I always liked My Generation because of the DJ Lethal little he like goes off on the turntables.
Just that first intro, if only we can fly, and then doom. Then then the drums kick in. It's
and then get up.
It's such good.
My DJ Generation, and it's like so good.
It's so good, man.
So good. Oh, that just got me Jones to listen through both of those albums again.
Yeah.
I'm like ready to get on a Limp Bizkit kick now.
I'm ready. What did Ben Stiller say? He's like, I'm really limping with a biscuit.
Yeah.
On the B sides. Remember you would have to, you didn't, where you weren't able to scroll through the end of that last track. You had to just play it through for like 2-3 minutes in order to get to the Ben Stiller part. But now you can go to Spotify and there's like that extra it has that extra extended version, but you can just scroll through it and actually be like, okay, it starts at like 7 minutes in. But when we were listening on our little CD players, you couldn't just scroll through it. You had to like listen to the white noise for about 2-3 minutes, and then it would start that little segment.
I was just skimming through the outro to that to see if I could find it. It might be. Is it on the Significant Other album?
I think the Ben Stiller thing is on the Significant Other. I forget.
Well, that would make sense because what is it? 1999 is the album where he opens with "This dedicated to you, Ben Stiller. You are my favorite."
I
told you, didn't I? Yeah. Oh, this says. I'll have to go look that up. I'll have to go find that.
Like when you just think of that time and era, you cannot bring up Limp Bizkit and how
you can't not
how important they were in that culture time.
Well, yeah, we did the whole Woodstock yeah. We have a whole episode dedicated to them, like, and their impact on like pop culture overall.
And I think Significant Other just came out when they hit that Woodstock, so they were like on top of the music world at that point.
And I didn't know we were going to go on about music that much. I was just I just wanted to bring up Emily Armstrong. I did think it was a little like, okay, they're kicking this off in September. Like, it felt a little bit weird at first because the month is like Suicide Awareness Month. And that being how Chester, went out.
Did you say your opinion on what you think of Emily and with the band, or?
I think immediately I was resistant to it, and then I think after a few days of like really thinking, like, I wasn't thinking about the rest of the band carrying on initially. So I am, willing to give it a shot, but up front I was like, yeah, I don't know. Even when I reached out to you and you hadn't listened to it yet, I definitely felt a type of way, like, at first.
Like, I wasn't to the point where I'm like going and be like, I gotta listen to this. Like, I wasn't hype about it, but I'm willing to, give her a chance and let her do her thing. I think she, like I had said before, I think she definitely has the screaming potential. And again, and she could probably say the same thing. She's not trying to replace Chester. She's not trying to be Chester. She has to be herself. She knows she's in a very big thing that she's trying not to obviously fill those shoes, but she knows she's in a pivotal role in that band and that she has a lot of big shoes to fill with that. But I think her singing voice is something that people are going to obviously have to get used to, because, you had Chester singing those lines. Now you're going to be definitely hearing a female's voice singing some of those lines. So it's definitely weird to hear that. And, like I said, I'm not like big. I'm like, oh, I'm very excited about this. Like, I'm cool that they're giving it a shot. They're trying to, get back to write new music and do something. But I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm all for them, doing what they want to do. And they obviously love music in order to continue to write and do their thing. But, I wish Emily all the success with it. And they obviously see something in her that we all maybe don't understand, or the fact that they see something in her that, they can at least, be like, this is somebody we can work with.
And
so
I thought about it too. If they were going to do this as a band and they had replaced Chester with another guy, I don't think that would have went over super well. Yeah. Like, I think going with a female lead vocalist is actually going to work better in their favor. Like, going forward. Like, if you just consider it from that perspective, like, could a guy have done it? Yeah, almost definitely. Right.
Yeah.
But to have a female be able to step in for Chester, not take his place, not fill his shoes, but be the best contribution to Linkin Park going forward, if it was going to happen, I feel like it's going to wind up working out better in their favor than had it been another male lead.
I'll definitely listen to the new album when it comes out, and
yeah, me
too.
I'm
sure they'll have another single or two before that and I'll definitely keep updated on them because I'm intrigued to listen to what they want to do. So you know, kudos to them with with everything that's been going on and them not taking a lot of the criticism too serious because it's just the internet. You're not going to get everybody loving everything, but they obviously see something in Emily that made them want to be like, hey, we want to get back out and do this. So
right.
And like you said, also, I think Chester would want them to be doing this.
I think so too. I think if he knew of his inner demons and he was feeling the thoughts that he was feeling, he had so much love for people and probably more the people, everybody else in the world than his own self, like if that makes sense. Again, don't come at me for that being my interpretation of potentially how he felt. He would want the rest of the band to prosper and be able to carry on without him, kind of thing.
Essentially, those lyrics and those songs, not only just his, but his contribution. So it's like almost a tribute to him for them to continue going out there and just playing also in his honor as well.
Yeah, I listened back to a lot of their songs, and especially like their more heartfelt ones, and you hear Chester sing this stuff, and it's like, how did nobody see the writing on the wall? Like, it just almost makes sense with some of the songs that are like pretty sad. One More Light is like, I had
listen back to it.
It's just, I just said a piece on that for Beat Addicts this past year, and it was tough to watch on stage without the waterworks starting, man. For sure. Got to talk about another sad thing real quick. It's not, it is, and it's also okay. James Earl Jones passed away, right? And it's weird for me because Shine and I were away for Labor Day weekend, and our Wi-Fi there is usually like a little bit not great, but we usually go through patches where it's like, and again, we're out in the mountains and there is plenty to do that you don't need the technology for. But like at the end of the night when we're settling in, and it's like, let's just throw something on like as background noise if we're playing a game. We would usually put on like Impractical Jokers, or just like, oh, we're up here and we have time, let's like binge a season of a series or something, and it's like, cool, let's do that. So no internet, but she had like a ton of DVDs, and she's like, have you ever seen Robots? And I'm like, what? She's like, it's called Robots, it's from like 2005. And I'm like, no, I don't think I heard of it. And then it started playing, and I was like, okay, I know I haven't seen this, but I vaguely remember. It's like, it's an animated movie, but
okay,
it's got a lot of like innuendo adult humor, even though it was built for kids, kind of thing. So I was like, nice. You would like it, I think. But it got a little into the movie, and I was like, whoa, that's totally Mufasa. And then Shine's like, oh yeah, you're right, I never really noticed that. Because Lion King came out the year she was born. I was like, okay, you fetus.
It's kind of like listening to Fresh Prince and then realizing that Will Smith's father was the same voice for Shredder in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV show back in the 90s, which I never knew until later. Then I'm like, oh crap, he what, like, because it was a very distinct voice, and I never knew that.
You mean Uncle Phil? right?
Uncle Phil. Yeah,
Yep.
he did the voice for Shredder for the 90s Turtles cartoon.
You said Will Smith's father, and I was like, I mean that guy that just left him high and dry again, and then we got the saddest moment on the show of all time.
Right.
I was like, wait,
Correction.
the actual dad played Shredder, and then I was like, no, it was definitely Uncle Phil.
His farter.
His farter. His like actual his actual caregiver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most notable James Earl Jones movies for you, like just off the top of your head.
I mean, like I said, I am not the biggest Star Wars fan, but
you know he's Vader. Yeah.
Obviously, knowing that he was Darth Vader, everybody kind of put that into perspective. But then, obviously, The Lion King was a big thing, and now it's to the point where I'm because. Yeah, obviously, Anth is a big Lion King fan, so now I'm thinking like I'm not gonna be able to watch that scene anymore because it's like when Mufasa dies, like because then Anthony still likes to try to be like, "What's wrong with Mufasa?" And I'm like, "He's actually dead now." Like in my head, I'm just gonna be like, "This is hard for Dad to watch now again."
Yeah, yeah, seriously.
And I think what else was he in? He was in Field of Dreams, right?
Yeah, which I've never seen.
I've never seen front to back. Jen loves that movie. I mean, she's a baseball fan, so
I mean, the other baseball movie is The Sandlot.
Yes, that too. He was in that too.
He's the neighbor who's got the Beethoven huge dog.
Yeah, he was. I forget his name in the movie, but he was an old baseball player who was blind, I think.
Hang on, I'll get it for you.
I
2
forget
seconds.
the name of the character he played, but he was an old baseball player. I forget his name.
It says Mr. Myrtle. I
something like that. Yeah,
I'll have to look it up.
But yeah, he played an old baseball player, but I think they didn't realize it until later in the movie that he was a professional baseball player back then. Because I think they assumed with the bigger dog that he was not like a happy neighbor, but then once obviously they get out and they see him, he's not as mean as they thought that he probably was. And then he had a love for baseball. They found out that I think that he was a professional baseball player. I think. Again, I haven't seen Sandlot in forever, so please somebody, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if I can't tell if he was a fictional professional baseball player, because when the kids finally go into his house, the one baseball he has was signed from Babe Ruth. I know that.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think he was a real baseball player. I don't think
he wasn't portraying somebody specifically.
No, I don't think he was portraying somebody. But yeah, I do remember saying he had a picture up there with Babe Ruth. I don't think he was portraying somebody, but I think he was, for the movie's sake, he was he used to be a professional baseball player.
Yeah. Clear and Present Danger with Harrison Ford. I've never seen it, but I know people have raved about it. I think the other bigger one that we're missing here is Coming to America. He's definitely the king in that.
Yes. Why didn't I? And again, that's one movie that I hadn't watched until maybe a year and a half ago. One movie I've always wanted to watch, and then it was on TV, and I started, actually sitting down to watch it. Such a great movie. I mean, Eddie Murphy in his prime, and
you are you love Eddie Murphy and Charlie Murphy, so I'm surprised that you hadn't seen that until just recently.
It's one of those movies that if you're a comedy fan of Eddie Murphy, the Richard Pryors, that's one movie you got to see. So I was late to the thing, but I'm glad. I hadn't seen the new one, Coming to America 2. I haven't seen that. Might have been a flop.
Yeah,
I think it went straight to DVD. So,
yeah.
Usually when it goes straight to DVD, that usually means it's a flop. So
yeah.
but I think James Earl Jones, I think he did reprise his role in that in the second one too. I think.
I believe it. I mean, he'll always be Mufasa to me, man. I mean, just because Lion King 100%. Is my favorite Disney movie of all time.
He'll definitely always be Mufasa.
Yeah, and Darth Vader, like, and again, like you said, I'm not a big Star Wars guy either, but Star Wars being as big as it is, and Darth Vader being one of like the greatest villains of all time,
most iconic villain,
yeah. Rest in peace, James Earl Jones, for sure. And Tito Jackson.
He was in his 90s, right?
He was 93. Yeah.
93. Okay. I didn't want to go too far. I knew he was 90s, but I wasn't sure if it was like 95 or below. So, 93.
Yeah, he had
if you live into your 90s, then I mean you're doing something good, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
and he was doing pretty good for a little while. So I don't know, I forget what they said he passed from.
He had diabetes real bad. Is what I remember reading. I don't know if that was like the ultimate cause of his death because it didn't necessarily say that. But I also did look. What's the day? The 18th. He passed on the 9th. Hang on, I'll just do it super quick. Where, because like the autopsy comes back, and usually that takes a couple weeks, kind of thing. So it wasn't really out there. Following his death, Prodigy. Okay, this is just kind of. CNN said that Jones was. Yeah, it still doesn't really say for sure. It said it does say in April 2016, James Earl Jones spoke publicly for the first time in nearly 20 years about his long-term health challenge with type 2 diabetes. So,
gotcha.
You know, if
diabetes, I mean, it's something that you eventually, depending on your age, you do, but then there could be also some other complications surrounding that eventually take you out too.
Yeah, that's my dad's one sister had some struggles with it, and I don't remember if it was for sure like what, you know, the cause of what of her passing, but I just know that it triggered a lot of other health issues for her, kind of thing. So
because your immune system is just compromised so much with that, and then anything you're like around just takes you out.
Yeah.
So
two more things to discuss before we wrap this up. And they're not necessarily quick ones, but they're not like they were going to be like the root of the episode, but then we went into all the other stuff. So, WWE, right? Because they're going towards Bad Blood. The Bad Blood PLE, which is October 5th. So by the time that this publishes on Friday, it'll be in 2 weeks and some change. So we were talking about Grayson's baptism, and you were like 2, maybe 3 weeks. It's definitely like 2 weeks and a day by the time this comes out. So I will say this, because usually once football starts, the wrestling product starts just, and this is probably just Vince McMahon booking, where he just kind of didn't care during football season because he knew that he wouldn't be able to keep up with Monday Night Football. Yeah. I think with Triple H's model of doing like only 5 matches on the PLEs, which is exactly the model he did down in NXT for their takeovers, because it allowed them to book important matches for TV. Like we are getting Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title on Monday. So they have been building that story up with qualifying matches to make their like it feels like an important feud, and for them to not be doing it at Bad Blood is just, again, telling that Triple H knows what he's doing. You don't have to just have all of your feuds feel important and put them all onto a pay-per-view. And then what are you left with for regular TV? It's just matches that aren't super important, or they're ending in DQs that just build to the pay-per-view. And then it's like, why am I even watching WWE TV anymore?
Exactly. And I feel they're going to have to incorporate that when they get to Netflix too, because you're going to want to actually start making people pay for Netflix accounts. So if you're giving wait until the pay-per-views, what's the point of paying for a Netflix account if you don't have one already?
And I think that's without me reading that's why Triple H is doing it. That's just my take on why it is panning out the way that it is, because it just makes too much sense, right?
No, I agree.
So let's talk about the Bad Blood card real quick. We're getting Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley again, and I can't see Rhea winning.
I don't think she does either.
Unless if they're gonna hot potato it back to Liv and then have like the only way that I could see that is if like Rhea won it just barely, and then for some reason Liv in like their contract signing for the match says that she is allowed to invoke like a rematch for Monday Night Raw with like a special guest referee of her choosing, and then Liv just gets the belt back on Raw. They haven't really done something like that lately, right. But if they do something where Rhea signs the contract but didn't actually read through the contract, then she'll get screwed out of the title after just winning it, and then you have to have Rhea chase and Rhea win the Rumble and go on and take on Liv at Mania. Like I can't see this feud blowing off after Bad Blood, because I don't know what else you do with the two of them. Like they're just too good for each other that there doesn't seem to be any, because there's no other women that are involved with like the Judgment Day, and you have Rhea and Damian out on their own. Like there's just no one else to encroach on it. But I feel the same exact way about Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. I'm like, I don't know what you do with these guys after this. Obviously, we're getting Punk and Rollins at Mania, and I'm like, what you do with Drew McIntyre is beyond me at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to hope this is their last match. I thought the last one was going to be the last match, but then they decided to continue the feud, which I'm like, all right, what do you do now? I mean, then you got, the Hell in the Cell match. So I'm like, all right, this seems like a good closer.
Well, Triple H had said back at like the beginning of the year, because they were talking about the PLE schedule for all of 2024, and he had hinted at, and it might have been even before January, it might have been later 2023, that he said, I really want to do away with the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view because it corners you into having to do these Hell in a Cell matches. And if the feuds don't make sense, then it's just a match with the Hell in a Cell just because you have to, because of the pay-per-view, which I absolutely love, by the way. So when Bad Blood was being rumored to be coming in October, it was also rumored that there would be a Hell in a Cell match there. And since WrestleMania, it's like, okay, they're gonna do Drew McIntyre and CM Punk in Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood. Like, the writing was on the wall for that, and I'm not even mad about it because I think it's gonna be really fun. They've done an excellent job selling the feud for the last 6 months, 8 months.
Yeah, something like that.
9 months.
Like I told you off air though that I'm pretty much like ready for this feud to be done.
Well, and that's why Triple H was saying you want to use Hell in a Cell to end the feud because there's no match bigger than that is supposed to conclude the feud and then move on.
Yeah.
CM Punk has already come out, and I think this was after Punk beat Drew. After Punk beat Drew, Punk came out to address Gunther, and apparently the CM Punk Gunther match may very well happen at War Games or at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because he did call out Gunther. So yeah.
And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, are they using that just to have Rollins come back and take out CM Punk in that match to start building the feud for Mania for that?
Right.
I was like, it might be too soon because they were trying to write Seth off TV to let him heal a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But they did just announce that they're doing Saturday Night Main Event. They're bringing that back in December.
I can see that. Mm-hmm.
And Rollins is on the promo poster for it. And I'm like, okay, so he must be coming back sooner than we think. I'm not even doing predictions for who's winning and losing because we can talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Or would that be next week? No, in 2 weeks we will be doing the predictions like officially for that.
Yeah.
Okay, Sami Zayn and Gunther at Bad Blood. I like how they are slow building it. It's not official because Gunther just keeps denying Sami Zayn's challenge for the title. But it's like almost definitely going to be a thing. They're doing Priest versus Balor, which I think will be good. They're doing a pretty good job building that feud. Nia's defending against someone to be decided. And tell me what you think about Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns tag teaming against Solo and Jacob Fatu.
Honestly, I don't care.
I don't either because I feel like it's just
don't have anything invested in it. They don't really have anything invested in it. I think it's just pretty much a filler at this point.
To get us to War Games, right?
That, and I think we know we're eventually going to get somewhat of a rematch for Reigns and Cody, so this could set them into their rematch. I think they're just more setting up something for Roman and Solo right now.
At
be
Mania.
The War Games at Mania.
I think the battle for who is the true tribal chief is literally going to slow roll until Mania, because the way you get, because if you have Cody invested with Roman right now, that is how you get The Rock to come in and say to Roman, what are you doing with Cody? And then you start slow burning the Rock and Roman feud. Mania 42 feud.
Mm-hmm. A lot of ways you can go by it, but yeah.
That's WWE in a nutshell right now. Other than SmackDown has already moved from Fox to USA, and NXT is going to the CW on October 8th. and they just announced tonight that Randy Orton is going to be wrestling one of the NXT guys. I forget who it is. They did say that they were going to try to put some heavy names on that NXT CW debut to try to pop the rating.
Understandable.
They're good at that. They know what they're doing there.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else WWE related in?
I think we did mention that, and I know we're kind of an hour into the podcast, but I know we mentioned that we wanted to watch the Vince McMahon documentary that's coming out on Netflix next Wednesday, the 25th. We had planned something to do with you guys, but I think we might either wait, and maybe we'll put some info in there into this episode if we think about it, but we might be having something going down on our Patreon, and you guys can watch it with us for free. So if there is some extra information, we'll add it into the description, but we might be able to do something where we can set something up on our Patreon. So it'll be a private watch along for our fans, and you can watch, and we're going to be watching the Vince McMahon documentary in real time. So it's not going to be like our traditional watch alongs where it's previously recorded and we throw it up. This will be live streamed, and you guys will be able to talk to us in real time while we watch everything. So we're getting the things set up for that. So we'll probably throw something up either on this episode or the coming episode about that. So
yeah, I'm stoked. I know it, again, just like the live show that we did at the Mania tailgate. I know that doing a live watch along is something that you've wanted to do since the podcast started. Pardon me. And we're coming up on 150 episodes pretty soon. We're almost 3 years in. So
almost, yeah.
What better time than a Vince McMahon documentary, docu-series?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I keep forgetting. So we won't be able to see the whole thing, but we'll at least be able to watch the first episode with you guys. Unless
we plan out to watch each episode.
Yeah, we'll see how our response is on the first night. If we get a good response and we get a decent amount of people that want to watch it with us, we'll continue to watch the series throughout, those weeks. Maybe we'll do it like every week.
Yeah.
We'll continue to do the episodes. I'm not sure how Netflix is going to do it. If they usually just throw them all out there, but I'm not sure if they're just going to do once every week, which sometimes they usually don't do that. But we'll figure it out. We'll see if how many people we get to watch with us. If we have a good turnout, maybe we'll continue to do the whole docu-series on Patreon, and you guys can watch it with us. So we'll take it from there.
I like it. I like it a lot.
A lot.
Anth, close it out. Talk to us about the Eagles, man.
Yeah. Very tough loss, to say the least.
Well, and this is our first time being able to say football's back on here, and
football is back, baby,
and be able to talk about like picks and stuff like that. We are usually recording the week of each game, and we haven't been able to do that for the first two games. So for the first game, I don't know if you were away yet. You weren't, because
it was the night before my vacation.
Yeah, little Anth was meeting his coach, who never came. Right?
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, we spent that time. Didn't even meet the coach, but he got to play with all the kids on the little air toy thing. So he got his fun in. So it was all good.
What, like a moon bounce?
The moon bounces and everything. So, and I almost had to knock a kid out because they had all these older kids that are running around and trying to be all thing with all the small kids. So I almost had to knock out a kid for playing too rough around the small kids. Had to go into extra dad mode almost.
So I had gone out to watch the game at like what is the closest to our new place, our new home now.
Mhm.
We went with my sister Kim and my brother-in-law Justin, and the place was packed, and it was kind of loud. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm old if I'd really rather not be here and I'd rather be watching just at home so I can enjoy the game. Because amidst like the noise and the four of us hanging out and just being chatty Cathys, I was seeing things, missing things, and I was like, this stinks. I'd rather be at home.
Yeah.
Even if it was with like my sister, my brother-in-law, and Cheyenne, obviously, being able to just focus on the game. I didn't get a lot of that the first game, and I had to teach down in Maryland last night and didn't get home until like the beginning of the fourth quarter or the end of the third. I got to see our second touchdown. I was like, wow, I made it home just in time for that. And then it got really fun right at the end of the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah. We had that game won by a long shot, and the missed pass from Barkley and then the interception from Hurts really, stuck it to it. And, Kirk Cousins hitting that long bomb at the end. And once he did that, I'm like, we're going to lose this game.
Yep. I felt exactly
like I said, our
the
defense
same
was
way.
doing good. Hurts was doing good. It seemed like, we had a rough start. I think that 4th and 4 hurt us for the rest of that game.
I think so.
If anything, my dad always says, when you're in that position, always take the points. Because even though it's 3, you always when you have that option, always go for take the points. And if we did, we wouldn't have even had to worry about that touchdown because we would have won that game.
Yep.
So with us not getting that 3 points, that lost the game for us too.
Yeah, there was a lot. There were a lot of variables and factors to be like, you can't blame one person for this game. Like it just There were two
an all around team and coaches loss because there's too many things to point out that went wrong or you can blame. So it's just they got to play better football all around in all aspects. And it didn't help that we didn't have A.J. Brown. Looks like he's going to be out for a couple weeks. So
I think
is a big thing for us too.
I think if we had him, it would have been a shoe-in win for sure.
Yeah, he could have at least added another 40, 50 receiving yards and everything.
Points, yeah.
Points, yeah.
Or at least
not to say points.
Yeah, at least with him out there. Not that Saquon Barkley did a bad job. He still did damage. I mean,
he was running through them.
Yeah, that 2-point conversion where it looked like he got ram stopped. He like went out to the side and was like, whoop. And I was like, oh, whoopsie. He did get it. Like, because at first I was like, nah, they stopped him. And then they showed it from the other ankle. I was like, oh, he crossed the plane. He's totally in. Yeah, so Barkley missing that catch towards the end, yeah, it would have been game over and we would have won, but he certainly upheld his end of the game and contributed everywhere else in the game. I think Jalen, he had to run the ball early on a little bit because he couldn't find people open, but like you were saying before we got on here, I was like, how about how long that he had to try to like find someone? And you're like, yeah, that's our O-line really holding off the people coming at him, Which
was very bad at the end of last season. We couldn't even get Jalen to make a decision because the O-line...
He had no protection.
And he had no protection at all. So by the time he got the ball, he had to, throw it out of his hand within the first 2-3 seconds. Now it's like, he's at least getting... at least 5 to 6 seconds where he can, look down the field, look at his options, and then if not, he can either try to run or toss it off to something, So again, there's some the pros and cons to both games at the Packers and the Falcons. There were some pros and cons to each of those games, but I think we can both agree that the way they're playing now is not going to get them far this season.
No,
and they definitely need to continue to work and I think people are just still not adjusting to what happened last season, because they just tanked those last 6-7 games, and that's what everybody is talking about. They look like just like they were in those last 6 games. What, like, they were saying everything got better. They were saying then they looked the same as what they did. Whether you're on defense or offense, our defense has been looking good, but you're going to get through them. Any defense is going to be penetrated no matter what. But it's a matter of how many times. And every offense is going to be making mistakes throughout the game. But we can't afford to make those big mistakes at the end of games, especially when we're playing bigger teams like a Saints team that we're going to be going in their house and playing. We can't be having those type of things. So because we have their running back we got to take care of. And that's what we really didn't do good within the second game, was really taking care of the run game and even the passing game. We didn't really have too much of a good aspect doing that. So again, just back to the drawing boards and working on certain things and preparing for the next one. There's only so much time that you can dwindle on the last game, because you got to get back up and start worrying about the next week's game. So
yes, especially we played the Monday night game this week, and then we play Sunday at 1:00. So short week to turn yourself around,
so
and
you can't really. No offense, they played that game Monday. Today they're already looking at the Saints. You're not going to be in practice the next day. Oh, what could we have done better yesterday? No, like you're already thinking about the Saints.
They lost the whole day. They lost that Monday to be able to do that.
Yeah. So you're already thinking about the Saints coming into that Tuesday practice this morning. Well, you're thinking, what is our implements? What did we do wrong in the game last night that we can do better for Sunday? So
yeah, and it goes without saying, right? They played in Brazil on Friday, September 6th. And then they played the Monday night game on Monday, the 16th. So after the 6th, you had 9 days to get ready for this game. So you had plenty of time. I just feel like they were like, oh, it's our home opener. The crowd will be behind us and we'll be good. And you lost in the last minute and a half of the game. And now you got to go to New Orleans, where the Saints have such a strong start.
Yeah,
it's scary. Just
they've literally scored almost 80, 85 points within their first 2 games.
I think it's in the low 90s from what I heard today.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 91 or 92, and I'm like, shwee.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting week with practice for them, but hopefully they come out a little stronger and they can. I mean, it's going to be a tough game no matter what. It might be another close game. That's how I feel.
They beat the Panthers 47-10 in week 1, and then they beat the Cowboys 44-19. That's 91 points in the first 2 games, man. And dude, sheesh. If anything, our defense needs to hold off their O-line, because apparently they are out for blood, man. Just to recap, you had the Birds winning the Green Bay game, and I had them losing. You got that pick. You had them going 2-0. We both had them winning this Falcons game. I was just wrong about both my picks, but I'm correct in that they are 1-1 after week 2.
Yeah.
And I am hoping, because you had their first loss coming in week 3 against New Orleans. and I had them getting the win, so we would both be ending 2-1.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you're wrong about this loss, man. Because if we conclude week 3 and we are 1-2,
I'm not going to be too worried yet, but it's not a good look.
It's early, but
it's still early.
People are going to be fired up, but at the same time, I think people are expecting us to lose because of how well the Saints did the first 2 weeks.
I mean, at least Jalen only necessarily intercepted the ball once in this last game, where unlike like 2 or 3 times in the first game he did. So hopefully
he's just
learning from that.
He just needs to stay focused under pressure, because it was the last 30 seconds of the game, and he was like I got to go long here, and he just went to throw the ball, and it was not getting caught by one of our guys, and someone just swooped in right behind him and was like, yoink, I'll take that, and finish this game out, and the Falcons walked out of there with a win. Anth, anything else before we get out of here? I know it's getting late and you got to get up soon.
None, man. It was great being able to get back here and do the thing here on the podcast. Back into our fall routines. Hopefully everybody is, gearing down with the summer now, vaguely behind us and getting into, fall. So we'll have some more information about the Netflix thing. So stay tuned for that.
You've got a pretty cool thing coming up tomorrow once this comes out, right?
That's right. Also, from what I was talking about in the last episode, if you guys are in the Delaware County area, come out to Media's Porch Fest. I'll be playing there from 2 to 3 over on 401 North Olive Street. So I'll be playing a 1-hour set, and I'm going to be debuting my new live looping rig. I'm very stoked. I've been practicing pretty hard the last week, getting all this stuff ready. So if you guys want to see that, feel free to come out and hang out.
Yeah, and 401 North Olive Street. If you know where State Street is, if you know where the Brick and Brew is, it is literally 2 blocks, maybe 3 blocks, right up Olive Street from there.
Yeah. So it's like a little corner house on that address. So, there's a band playing before me from like 12 to 1-ish, and then I'll be playing from 2 to 3. So it should be fun.
Yeah, you'll be on the corner of Olive and 4th Street.
Yep. Anything you guys say before we get out of here, bud?
I love you, man. It's so good to be back, and hopefully we can keep this rolling smoother, because like the last few weeks were tough, but we made it work for the one set. We did. Pod. For the pod, right?
For the pod. Yeah.
That's it. All the love to you, brother. All the love.
All the love. It's been one set, guys. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
See you next week. We're out of here.